Hi, it's Belisa, and it's been a while since our last video. And the reason is because I've been doing a lot of meditation and talking with God and seeing how my own consciousness could expand and how much more there is to learn and perceive. Just a sense of my own limited awareness as the state that I am right now. I know that there is so much more, such vastness of understanding and comprehension that we barely scrape the surface of. So a lot of these talks or nuggets of wisdom, so to speak, I felt were limited, very, very much limited and flawed in their understanding in the current form that I have. But this is a topic that I have wanted to talk about for some months, which is that getting to know someone needs time and you need to have patience. In my life, there have been many times where you meet someone and you don't really get along and there's conflict. In Chinese, there's a phrase 不打不成交, which means if you don't fight, you don't get to know each other. You don't actually get to understand each other. But through the mutual tension and the 摩擦, the scraping and the push and pull dynamic, you slowly actually learn to see eye to eye and to respect each other as competitors, as dual opposing forces, each a force to be reckoned with. And you don't get a sense of that until you sometimes, for some people, get into a scrape with them. And then you see, that person is my equal. Or it doesn't have to be like that, but you understand more why, what is triggering them, what they're upset about, what you could do better, how do you compromise, things like that slowly help you to achieve a level of understanding for each other. And that process requires time. So there was someone who I was not used to, who was around certain people who I was really close to. And their constant presence created a friction. Yeah, friction is the term. Let's have friction. Because I wasn't used to their presence. Before, our dynamic was just the three of us. But with this new person, the whole dynamic shifted. And I didn't want to deal with it. I tried various methods. And, so our relationship wasn't very good in the beginning. But after many times of meeting them over the course of half a year and then 1 year later, our relationship evolved. Slowly, time after time, there's still conflict from time to time, but now, for the most part, there's no underlying ill will, there's no resentment, there's no passive aggression, and I see them with respect and actual developed sense of affection and warmth, because then you create a connection. But that process has taken years. Each time I see them again, it's different. And for even family members or people who I grew up with, people who are at a certain point in my life, the closest in the world to me, that dynamic still changes. And you want to hold on to the memory of the past or memory of a relationship that you had, because those are the most precious things that you have, the warmth, the love, certain aspects of that relationship that you just want to cling on to, or that you still fondly think back to in the well of your mind. Those are the most precious things. But when you see them again, you realize, they've changed. After all, they still change. They're not a calcified thing that we open in a book and then it's the same line. Even when you read a book, the line says something different to you because you have changed. It means something different to you. It has a different nuance of understanding. You might not even like it anymore, etc. But you have changed and the person has changed. So your dynamic will always change. Everything is constantly in a flux of motion. And so when even for people who are very almost rigid in their habits and their beliefs and their rituals for the past decades of our life, I know people who are so set in their ways that they've done the same thing for many, many years. But even those kinds of people have also changed, and our dynamic has also changed. So every time, learning to adapt to that change, learning to understand them again, it's a continual process of re-understanding, reconnection, re-friction, and then redeveloped closeness. Or maybe solely dissolution of intimacy. Some people you actually cannot continue to see eye to eye with, or you realize that the previous bond or kinship you had is actually, it cannot pass the test of time. But whatever it is, to take the effort to recalibrate yourself and that dynamic and that energy between the two of you and the flow. Because you're just assuming or holding on to that version of events in your head. It doesn't exist except as a memory. And so change is constant, death is constant. And this year, certain people died in my life. So, honestly, people who are not actually in a typical sense close to me at all. Someone who I rarely talk to, only occasionally see, if ever. And someone who is actually I've never met before. But their deaths have impacted me in a way that at first it was actually hard for me to acknowledge or to accept or to process. And it was painful despite, and kind of surprisingly, because of the lack of actual true intimacy, it was surprising how much pain I felt. And I realized I was part of the sense of just a dissolution of things that you hold to be constantly true. Because the person I would see occasionally, I just assume or expect they would always be there. The next time I go to this place, I would see this person again. They would always be there. They're like a fixture of that place. It's like you go to that coffee shop on that avenue, like that place you don't really go to, but every time you go there, you want to see that person and say hi to them. And you expect them to be there. And you realize that, oh, no, I cannot assume they'll be there the next time I see them. I cannot assume anything at all. Even if they're there, maybe they've changed, maybe I've changed. Everything is a continual process of death. And then so I read a lot of Buddhist work. I have to thank my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. I read many beautiful works, including The Art of Living. That book has helped me. Silence, Fearlessness. He wrote many, many books which often repeat similar themes or stories. But just his whole energy and presence and his philosophy, the Buddhist philosophy, what is death? Actually, there's no such thing. Death is the continuation of life. But if you think about it a certain way, life is also a continuation of death. In fact, because like what I'm saying, every moment dies within itself. Every moment is a present moment. Now, boom, it's gone. Boom, it's gone. Boom, say bye, it died. Boom, living, died. Boom, living, died. So what we see as this is life and then you die and then there's death is actually false. That's a very flawed notion. Boom, we're alive. Boom, we died. Boom, I'm alive. That Belisa has just died. Now I'm a new Belisa. So to see this, the moment, every moment as its fresh being, and to see each person with that fresh being is so vital to actually experiencing life as what it is, a person as what it is. Otherwise you see a person and all the previous resentments or anxieties or whatever bad experiences you have with them, that will cloud over the present freshness and joy of meeting someone, experiencing them for the first time. You have to allow people to die in front of you because they have. You have to allow people to change. You have to allow yourself to change. The Belisa that grew up in high school, the Belisa that went to this place or did this thing, she's gone. Allow yourself to die. Allow other people to die. So that when you see them again, it's not, you don't have all those expectations. You don't have all those past, the burdens of existence, because those things fossilize. What is a fossil? A fossil is something that's been compressed over eons under rock, under calcified soil. It's hard, it's brittle. It's not living because there's so much on top of it. If you just throw it away, it's dead, it's gone. I'm alive right now. I'm alive, even when I'm dead. And you sense another thing that Thich Nhat Hanh wrote I love is things don't really die because they just metamorphosize. right? A cloud becomes rain. A rain becomes this cup of tea that I drink. The cup of tea I drink becomes me. I become the soil. I become the tree. I become the sunshine. I become the earth. We're so interconnected with each other. Beautiful Buddhist quote that I think I read you guys before in one of my other videos on my other channel about how a flower does not exist by itself. A flower does not it is only interbeing. It is be. Inter be, but not alone. A flower does not exist independently of the sun, of the water, of the nutrients and soil, of the people around it. It is connected with everybody. And so we are connected with everybody. And we lose a sense of that connection. That's when the suffering begins. So to go back to the theme of this video, because we went quite metaphysical there. I can't help it. Just like my favorite thing. So to go back to this topic, it takes time to know somebody, and to even, because this video I was going to make many months ago and I just kept putting it off. So those are some examples, one from my family, one from, someone I knew. Also just like conflicts, takes time. But romantically too. I realized that maybe I should get my journal. I actually wrote something that was pretty nice. But yeah, I realized that I do this thing where I don't see people for who they are. I see people for either who I am or who I want them to be. And that's such a huge thing for so many people in relationships, and not necessarily romantic, but so strongly in romantic relationships. When you see people not as who they are, but who you are and who you want them to be. And that creates so much distance from the truth of something versus your created vision or illusion or delusion of something. Not to say that your perception could not also be the truth, because it's sometimes murky, right? But it creates a gap, a dissonance between truth and reality and your perception of it. Or it creates a certain amount of friction or conflict or a lack of connection, a disconnect. It creates a disconnect in the bond because you are not talking to the person as who they are, or you may not even have ventured to discover who they are or really understand who they are. Instead, you have interacted with the fantasy of who they are from your own self-fed cycle of emotion that you want them to give you something. So you created a vision of them that would provide that to you. And when they inevitably don't create that or meet that need for you because they're not who you thought they were, then you sense that disillusionment, that fall, the gap between expectations and reality. You're like, oh, I thought they were like this and they were supposed to do X, Y, Z or fulfill these things for me. But then they're not doing that. And why not? Why not? Because you never bother to know who they are. So who did you really love? Who did you really fall in love with? Did you love them as a person after knowing about them and loving them? Or did you just fall in love with a concept that honestly is not about them at all, but is about anybody who happens to be in the right time, situation, shoes, who said certain thing to you, who reminded you of such and such, maybe your father, maybe your mother, maybe your ex, a certain nuance, a certain feeling that you had that you want to draw back to, a subconscious pattern of attaching to certain people who would give you certain feelings, right? Perpetuating a certain narrative in your ego. Certain people, right? And then you give you these subliminal messages that make you attached to them without knowing who they are. And your concept of that could be pasted onto anybody who fills those things, checks off those boxes, gives you a certain kind of feeling subconsciously, most often, or even consciously. They check those boxes, boom, you copy pasta that concept onto them. And now they're your new obsession, they're your new love, they're your new attachment. They could fulfill all those things that you so desperately wanted. but inevitably will never have. Why? Because it's a concept. Because you created it. Because it's more a part of you than about who they are. And so before attaching yourself to a concept, find out who they are. And that actually is the start of love. The start of love is a painful process of discovering who the other person really is and discarding all of your previous notions about them, which are false. When you can discard your own notions, your own ego, and learn to actually see who the other person is and love them anyway, that is the start of actual love and understanding. And it's painful because what you have to do is essentially kill yourself. There is no love, no true love without the death of ego. There is no true finding God. You cannot find God when your ego is crowding your brain. That's what I learned from my teachers, my spiritual masters, and my spiritual brothers and my teachers. If your mind, God can never enter your mind when it is so crowded by your own ego. Only when your ego leaves can you sense the peace, the stillness, the love, the joy that is God. And so I've been praying to God, kill my ego, humble me, keep humbling me, keep testing me, keep killing my ego. Because only then can I actually know who you are. But that's painful, right? To the ego, that's painful. And your ego will continually try to test you, continually want to cling on, continue to give you problems to test you. How much do you want love? How much do you want God? How much do you want freedom? Are you actually ready to become free? They will keep trying to trap you because otherwise it's gone. It's dead. Everything has a survival instinct, including the things that are holding you back. So let's get back. So when I was starting this spiritual process or this journey in the beginning, because I did my 50 days of meditation, now it's about day 100 and more. So I want to create a video on that. But I haven't fully formulated those thoughts, even though I'm very aware of, well, let's just say just that video will be coming. But one thing early in the process, like I'm not sure what day, but I had this feeling that, I want to be loving God. I want to feel devotion. I want to feel love, but I don't. The truth is I don't feel it in my heart. And for my guru, I'm supposed to feel love and devotion and loyalty and all that jazz. I don't feel it. I know I'm supposed to, I just don't feel it. So I went to ask a spiritual sister. I asked, what am I supposed to do? I want to love God. I want to love my guru. I just don't feel it right now. She says, so sweetly. And then in that day, I felt the presence of my guru right behind her. And she said, wanting to love someone is loving them. That's what my guru said. Wanting to love them is loving them. And that blew my mind. And I wrote it down. I was like, wow. And it's so true because I wanted to love and I kept making the effort. I want to love. And now I love. Now I really feel love. I do feel devotion. I feel loyalty because I wanted to. And by wanting to do something, you slowly develop that. You want to love, you will love. Wanting to love someone, you will love someone. Eventually, right? Or just trusting that will come. The desire. And another thing that I learned very strongly recently, and someone actually told me this, don't fall in love with someone before you know them. And another thing I read in a spiritual book is, how can you love God? My guru wrote this. How can you love God without knowing him? So it's so much about understanding, about knowing somebody. And that takes time and effort, continual effort. Every day I meditate, every day I talk to God, every day I make the effort. I try to know him more and more. And sometimes, like today, I was very restless. I went and I meditated. But let's just say, even though I felt God's presence and I felt the peace, I felt like my mind was, most of the time I felt my mind was was still being distracted by other thoughts. or reliving certain moments from earlier in the day, and I was like, okay, I'm not fully here. So that comes and goes. But much of the continual effort is I'm trying to know them more. I'm trying to make the effort to understand. And by slowly knowing them more and more, getting a deeper sense of perception, understanding, alas, that's when the love, that's when the truth begins. But you cannot love someone without knowing them. And so if we draw it back to a more practical perspective, maybe away from God and the spiritual aspects for a little bit, and talk about the practical dynamic of a friendship or a romantic relationship. It's I realized that, sometimes I was like, wow, there's been times when I've attached myself to people, when I develop some kind of a romantic attraction or a fantasy in my head, the concept thing, or even like a relationship, or actually a full-fledged relationship, and I actually barely knew them. They barely knew who I am. They don't know, well, the big things, right? The big things, my ambitions, my visions, my desires, my pain, my hopes. They don't know those things. They don't know any of those things. So even sweep those aside, the big things, the noble things, the virtues, whatever, sweep those aside. Do they know the little things? Do they know how many siblings I have? Do they know where I grew up? Do they know, do they know what I like to do? That sounds really basic, right? But you'd be surprised how many things that people don't actually know about each other. And yet you claim to love each other or want to love each other. But it's like, man, I was like, wow, this is crazy. I was like, I had a feeling, I was like, wow, they barely know me at all. And the same, I don't really think I know this person. But then you do. But then there's another aspect where you feel like there are parts, there are intuitions or feelings that you do know things. And yet, on so many ways, it's still so much surface level, and it's not the connection or the actual understanding or knowing, and the love is not there. It's not there. That takes time. The understanding takes time, and it's a lifetime. It's continuous. So, patience. When you're with somebody, still continuous effort, a lifetime of effort, because everybody dies constant to constant. Like we were saying, instant to instant, moment to moment, we're constantly dying. That continual desire to know, to understand, to deepen, to adapt is always there. Yeah, and it's really beautiful in a way. I think of knowing ourselves as well. When I made that video that, that you're a work in progress. You are, I stopped, there are things, I don't know, like, that's a thing too about these narratives about knowing somebody. It's like you can know someone without any words. So those things that I mentioned about like those trivia questions, or like those 40 questions you ask on a date, whatever, how make someone fall in love with you with these like deep pseudo psycho whatever questions, those are also superficial. You could know someone's birthday, their favorite color, the favorite sauce they like in their noodles, what they like, and this, that, whatever, and still not know somebody. So it's like two sides. One is like all those like concrete information or knowledge, and one is an innate intuitional understanding, which you actually can with some people immediately know them, because it's almost like a soulmate. It's almost like I just feel your energy. I just know you. But also that could be a little delusional. But the thing is, there's actually an innate essence of somebody that goes way beyond all those things that I talked about. Hold on, what was I going to say about this? I'm losing my track of thought here. But my train of thought, but I actually lost my train of thought. Hmm. There's a part to somebody that you can know innately and intuitively without words. That goes beyond all the things that we just mentioned. It goes beyond asking them questions or the kind of, just knowing facts or information or even emotions. It goes beyond that. And it's a connection, understanding based on a sense of presence or being that I can't describe. But that's actually the essence or core of what is actually love. The kind of love, the feeling that goes beyond language, the depth that can be expressed through silence, by presence, by care, or by just a glance. Very subtle things without needing to say anything. I don't know how I actually want to finish this video, but I'll leave you with that thought. It takes time to know somebody. And sometimes on the other flip side of that, it takes no time at all. Precisely because of what I just mentioned. That if you're able to be still enough with someone, that they can still all their, in the moment of true connection, when all of those thoughts about your past, this is what I was going to say. It's that I've kind of wanted to refrain from presenting certain narratives myself, or other people tend to try to know each other by presenting narratives. Yes, that's what I'm going to say. People tend to want to know each other by presenting narratives about their past or projections about the future. What are your future plans? What do you see ourselves? How do you see ourselves in 5 years? Do you want a family? Do you want this? Okay, there's your future plans. XYZ. These are my past accomplishments. These are my past fears and traumas. Okay, all of these things collectively make up you, but does it really? All of those things, if I knew all of those things, does it make me love you or you love me? Or is there such a connection? The thing is, yeah, I think it goes beyond all of that. The actual knowing is a knowing that goes beyond all of that. It's the other thing that I'm talking about on a much deeper level that goes way beyond all that, and it's based on intuition and feeling and just presence of being. That kind of knowing you can actually accomplish, I think, instantly. So in one sense, it takes time to know somebody. On the other hand, it takes no time at all, because you can do that right now. Wow, I'm really formulating this as I'm going along. Yeah, this is why we waited until now to make this video, because I was just rereading parts of The Power of Now because someone told me to do ASMR, and I was actually inspired. I was like, okay, let me create an ASMR channel. But yes. This idea that it takes all the time in the world, continuous time, but at the same time, no time at all to know somebody truly. And that's what I feel. And I think actually maybe that, and the conflict arises when you lose track of that true love and depth of feeling. Because actually, yeah, despite me not really knowing them or them not knowing me or all those characteristics that I just mentioned, despite that, I genuinely did feel a sense of love and connection without needing to know any of that at all. Why? Because it's just a state of being. But the conflict arises when I think it's the ego, when your mind wants those things, or there's a certain sense of expectation or wanting something that goes beyond just the present connection, that makes you lose sight of the connection in favor of the concept. Aha. Wow, now I'm onto something pretty deep. Yes, is when we kill the connection for the concept, is when love dies, is when love is obscured. Love is obscured by our own fantasy, our concept of what love is. True love is obscured. True love dies when it is covered by the concept of what we want it to be. Boom, baby. Write that down. Boom. That is something that I find. The love is there. You know, because I was having this conversation with somebody. During the whole conversation, I felt so happy, so at peace, so like connected, right? I felt really genuinely happy despite some things they were saying. I was honestly should probably not make you feel happy at all, because honestly it was quite jarring and some of it was actually offensive. But to me in the moment, who was so inundated with love from God, honestly, because I just spent a whole weekend meditating, so full of love. Everything that was said in his words, I didn't quite it didn't really matter what he was saying, but the energy behind the words was love, and the feeling that was there was love, and I felt happy. I felt very, very happy. Only after, when I was thinking back to certain things that they said or certain things in the conversation, like concrete information or the words itself, on the level of words, the words were jarring and offensive. Some of it at certain points, some of it. And so if you hold on to those, then yes, then you'll start whirlpooling. You'll start going down the road of like resentment or negativity, or like, man, like I can't believe they said this, or like, wow, that's so not, or disappointment or disillusionment, or you're like, this is not what I thought it was. This is not who they're not who I thought it was. I'm not who they think that I am. And all of those things, these are concepts. These are mental pictures. Right? On that level, everything could be wrong. There's so many problems. I could nitpick forever. There's a lot of problems. But then if I remember the deeper core, which is actual core, then it's like, oh, wow, there's no problems at all. I feel so at peace. I feel so happy. And what a joy it is to connect. What a joy, what a gift it was to have been able to connect and to understand each other and to know each other and to begin to know each other. And what a joy that was. What a beautiful moment that was. Despite all the superficial things being like not at all what you would want or desire, right? But the underlying thing is what actually love is made of, and what I'm like saying right now. And so, wow, I'm really just thinking about this myself right now. That's amazing. I think that's why I can connect with strangers very well. A lot of strangers who happen to engage in deep conversations with me. I'm able to do that because there's such a sense of, because of that, this part of the connection I'm talking about. Because without needing to know anything about them, without knowing about XYZ, without any sense of time, we're able to immediately enter a space of very deep understanding, connection, because of the presence of that intuition, innate understanding and connection, without any of the other stuff. And yet with people who you like or love or you're attached to, or your family, certain people who are, because they're emotionally close to you, it's so easy to lose that sense that you would have with a stranger. It's so easy to lose that divine love, the innate presence. And you become swept away by all those calcified notions of this is the expectation, this is who I am, this is who they are, and because they don't match, then we're now at odds with each other. Now we're at war with each other. And I wish you treated me better. I wish you said this to me. I wish you didn't say this to me on my birthday. I wish I didn't, you didn't say this growing up. I didn't, I wish you didn't do this to me in this year, right? It's like all these things are just, wow, they don't mean anything at all. Anyway, I'm having a moment. Wow. If you had a moment, wow. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But this is something I'm only discovering. Like, this is something you read about and you reread and you never fully know and understand until you embody it. Because I've read this years ago, right? Reading The Power of Now. Literally rereading it, and you reread it with new eyes and a fresh sense of understanding. But the concepts were all there. The concepts are there. You read many books. You hear these things. Philosophically, you might have understood these things. Like recently, I was learning a lesson that talked about life as a dream. I had this huge epiphany in my room just yesterday. My friend was here, and they took a video of me, and I was just like mind blown. I was like, wow. But literally like 10 years ago, or many, many years ago, when I was first reading Taoist philosophy, you know, you already read these things. You already read life is a dream. There's no difference between life and death or those states. It's just different states of consciousness, but it's all part of a dream. It's part of the dreaming consciousness. Like you read philosophy, but did you really understand? Did you really absorb it? But I just reread the lesson. I just learned this lesson, and yeah, right. Like you kind of begin to feel what that means. What that means when we are a dream. What does it mean when life is nothing but projected states of consciousness coming from just a dream state? Like all of this is a dream. Life is like we're just acting in God's play. What does that mean? I'm just here to act my part out joyfully, but not being attached to what's going on. What does that mean? It's something you start to understand and feel, and it gives you so much freedom and joy because it's like, wow, it's like, what does it matter? What does it matter? Okay, anyway, I went metaphysical again. I couldn't help it. Like I told you, I couldn't help it. I could not help it. And even though I had a blip in this video where I like completely lost my thought process, I won't edit this video because it's, you know, this is what it is. I started off going on this one topic. I was going to create a topic, like a topic targeted video. True love takes time. It takes time to know somebody. You need patience to know somebody. It takes patience. Something like that, right? To like now we're talking about like the universe and God's creation and life and death. You know what? But I think this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. So thank you. And we'll see how the future videos go. Are they going to all be like very long? Wow. Epiphany like for me, or is it going to be more? But this is very interesting to me as like even an intellectual and just more of a spiritual exploration as well. Because I feel like there's a lot more depth and nuance than the kind of things I was making before. Because I have saved videos I didn't really upload or publish that talk about like, are you the creator or you're the reactor? But I sense it a lot in this video, and one that I recently made that was it talked about like sex and, you know, sexual desire and why you shouldn't pursue sex necessarily. You know, it talked a lot about that, but I didn't really feel like uploading any of them after watching them, and I think so much is like a message or a thing that you want to say, but then it's also the state of consciousness that you are in when you are saying it. It's actually very essential, because the same thing about the love. It's like if you're embodying a state of love, it doesn't really matter. Well, it does, right? Because words are part of thought, which are part of consciousness. But in a sense, if you have the feeling, it doesn't really matter what is said or not said, what is done or not done. The energy, the feeling is there. And the same with this kind of video is like, you know, or the state of your interaction with anybody. It's like, I'd say like maybe, right? Like, like just a bit is what is said, but then so much more is what's felt or understood. And anyway, yeah. Great love and peace to you. Thank you so much. And if you actually stayed for the whole video, great blessings upon you. Yeah, great love and peace. I love you, if I may say that. Thank you so much. Bye.